The night Evan realized he was falling for her, he was standing alone in the rain outside a hospital, his hands shaking, his heart torn between a last name he was born into and a love he never expected. Inside that building was the girl who despised everything his family represented, the girl who had every reason to hate him, and yet somehow had become the center of his world. He knew, even before the rain soaked through his jacket, that loving her would cost him more than he was prepared to lose. Before this story goes any further, take a moment and reflect. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that love can exist even where hatred once lived, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who believes in love, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Evan Hale grew up in a family that was respected by some and despised by many. The Hale name carried weight in their small American town, not because of warmth or generosity, but because of control. His father owned half the land, his uncles ran businesses that employed and quietly exploited people, and his grandfather's legacy was tied to deals that had ruined families generations ago. Evan knew this history the way one knows an old scar, always present even when ignored. He had spent his childhood watching neighbors lower their eyes when his family passed, hearing whispers that stopped when doors closed, feeling a heaviness he never fully understood until he was old enough to see the truth. Maya Brooks came from the other side of that truth. Her family had lost everything when Evan was a child. Her grandfather's small construction company had been pushed into bankruptcy by Hale-controlled contracts, and the stress had taken his life before she was born. Her mother worked double shifts as a nurse, her hands rough, her eyes tired, carrying a quiet anger she never fully spoke but lived with every day. Maya grew up knowing one thing clearly: the Hale family destroyed lives, and forgiveness was not something they deserved. Their worlds collided unexpectedly at a community fundraiser organized by the hospital, where Maya volunteered on weekends. Evan had been sent by his father, not out of goodwill, but obligation and image. He walked into that hall wearing a polite smile he had perfected over the years, shaking hands, nodding, playing the role expected of him. Maya noticed him immediately, not because she was impressed, but because his last name was printed boldly on the donor board behind him. Her chest tightened the way it always did when she saw that name, and she felt the familiar surge of resentment. What neither of them expected was the quiet way their lives began to overlap after that night. Evan started showing up more often at the hospital, at first for appearances, then slowly for reasons he could not explain. He noticed Maya's presence in the hallways, her calm efficiency, the way she treated patients with a gentleness that felt rare and sincere. Maya noticed him too, despite trying not to. She saw how he stayed late helping elderly patients find rides home, how he listened more than he spoke, how his eyes carried something heavier than privilege. Their connection formed not in grand moments, but in small shared spaces, late evenings in hospital corridors, silent acknowledgments, a mutual understanding of exhaustion. Evan felt drawn to her warmth, to her resilience, to the way she seemed untouched by the superficial world he came from. Maya, despite herself, felt confused by the kindness she witnessed. It unsettled her, because it did not fit the story she had grown up believing. As weeks turned into months, Evan began to change. He stopped attending family gatherings as often, questioned decisions his father made, and found himself increasingly uncomfortable benefiting from a system that hurt people like Maya's family. Loving her was not a sudden event. It was a slow unraveling of everything he thought he knew about himself. With every smile she gave a patient, every tired but determined step she took through long shifts, he felt the walls around his heart collapse. Maya, on the other hand, fought the feelings growing inside her. Every time she caught herself thinking of Evan, she reminded herself of the pain tied to his name. She remembered her mother's silence when bills piled up, the stories of her grandfather's collapse, the bitterness that had shaped her family. Yet Evan did not behave like the villain she expected. He never defended his family's actions, never spoke proudly of their power. Instead, there was shame in him, a quiet desire to be different. The tension between them grew heavier when the town began to notice. People whispered again, but this time with curiosity instead of fear. Maya felt the weight of betrayal toward her own family, while Evan felt the pressure of disappointing his. The space between them was filled with unspoken truths, truths that eventually could no longer be avoided. The breaking point came when Maya discovered that Evan's father was behind a new development project that would force dozens of low-income families out of their homes, including patients she cared for. The pain and anger that surged through her felt unbearable. Everything she feared about the Hale family rose to the surface, and Evan found himself standing at the center of a storm he did not create but could not escape. Evan faced a choice that many never have the courage to confront. He could stay silent, protect his comfort, and keep his family's approval, or he could finally stand against the legacy that haunted him. For the first time in his life, he chose the harder path. He confronted his father, challenged the project, and publicly withdrew his support. The fallout was immediate and brutal. He was cut off financially, isolated from relatives, and labeled a traitor to his own blood. Maya watched this unfold with conflicted emotions. Part of her wanted to believe it was too late, that no amount of sacrifice could erase generations of harm. Another part of her saw the genuine pain in Evan's eyes, the loneliness of someone who had finally chosen morality over inheritance. The hatred she had carried for so long began to crack, replaced by something fragile and unfamiliar. Their relationship was never easy. They carried the weight of history with them, the judgment of a town that preferred simple villains and heroes. Evan struggled with guilt, questioning whether love was enough to atone for the damage his family caused. Maya struggled with trust, fearing that loving him meant forgiving a past that still hurt deeply. Time became their greatest teacher. Evan took a job far from his family's influence, working with organizations that supported displaced families. He did not do it for recognition, but because he needed to feel aligned with the man he was becoming. Maya supported him from a distance, slowly allowing herself to believe that people were not bound forever by their origins. The night Evan stood in the rain outside the hospital came after months of quiet progress. Maya had been rushed into surgery following an accident, and Evan, who had been estranged from almost everyone, felt the terror of losing the one person who made him feel whole. In that moment, soaked and shaking, he realized that love was not about comfort or ease, but about choosing someone even when it meant standing alone. When Maya recovered, she saw him there, exhausted, worried, unchanged by wealth or pride. She saw not the name he carried, but the man he had become. The hatred she once felt did not disappear overnight, but it softened, reshaped by understanding and effort. If this story has touched your heart even a little, if it has made you reflect on love, forgiveness, or the courage to break cycles, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive. Before the story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter, and they help us understand the emotions these stories awaken. In the end, Evan did not redeem his family's past, and Maya did not forget the pain it caused. But together, they proved something quieter and more powerful. That love does not erase history, it challenges it. That kindness can grow in places shaped by resentment, and that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is choose love, even when it means standing against everything they were born into. Their story was not perfect, but it was real. And in a world divided by names, legacies, and old wounds, that kind of love was nothing short of revolutionary.